All right, we're live. All right, a very warm afternoon and good morning, depending upon the time zone. You are in Eastern time, a very good afternoon, but if you're good morning. So, very warm welcome to all of you in the Fashion E-Summit 2020. We are really happy with us two of the most distinguished leaders in the e-commerce and fashion industry. Uh, I would like to start by beginning a formal introduction of our panelists this morning. Let me begin with Dean Wegner. Uh, Dean Wegner is the founder and CEO at Authentically American. Uh, in 2017, Dean was an Army Ranger and aviator and created this Authentically American brand to bring back jobs to America by selling competitively priced premium branded apparel. Uh, Authentically American products are completely made in US and they they are trying to build an iconic brand which is truly American. Uh, has also worked in making sure that they partner with sizes, colleges and high school charities and nonprofits, and they donate 10% of their gross profit to veteran and first responder focused charities. A very, very warm welcome, Dean, to today's panel discussion. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome. Let me now move on to Steve. Uh, Steven Borrelli. Steve is the CEO and founder at Cutsclothing. In 2016, Cuts was created by Steven when he found himself struggling to find the perfect t-shirt that he had enough to quality. He was looking for a professionally worn t-shirt, but he could not find one. So that's where the idea for it. Uh, Steve is driven, confident, and they're doing this business with a purpose, and they are making sure that they help the customers to live the lifestyle in the best possible manner. And their promise is to keep customers current style confident with quality and ready for action with versatility. And they always believe in being there in the revolutionize the way customers shop with Cuts Clothing. Welcome, Steve, to the panel discussion.
Welcome. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. So I would like to start with this first question. When I was thinking about what should I ask you guys, you being entrepreneurs and leaders in your own field, and I wanted to start with this first question. What is the purpose of your brand? That is the single most thing that kind of helps in defining the vision for your brand. So I would like to start that maybe to begin with.
So happy to share. And Kuldeep, you mentioned that our vision is to build this iconic American brand, but what really drives us is our mission, and that's all about creating jobs. And that motivates us. And to us, it's all about making a difference. And we're successful, ultimately, we'll leave a legacy. So we're in the apparel business, but really it's all about making a difference.
Amazing. So that's a very strong purpose, and I believe coupled with your purpose and I believe you must have reached just the tip of an iceberg, and you must have a long roadmap ahead. So great, glad to know that. I
Kuldeep,
would like to
I'll
ask.
tell you right now, I'll
Yeah.
just tell you right now, now more than ever,
Mhm.
Americans are actively seeking American-made products, and we'll never get back to the heydays. For example, when I graduated from West Point in 1993, when over 50% of the apparel in the U.S.
Mhm.
was made in the U.S., but we are just exploding. The traffic to our website is up over 400%. Our business is going to be up those lines, throughout the year, and it's not going to be the only way places are made, but it is just incredible right now, the response that we're receiving, and that's what fires us up because this creates more jobs.
Excellent. So yeah, I believe the purpose is kind of now finding its way, and which is amazing. I think in the long run, of the brand stands out, and that's where people kind of understand and connect with the brand, and it's amazing. I would like to ask the same question to Steve also. If you can share some insight about how did you start? What is your purpose for starting this brand?
Yeah. First off, Dean, that's amazing. I love hearing that. A brand like yours inspires me every day. So happy to share the panel with you. It's really an honor. Cuts. Our mission is to keep guys always on, and what we mean by that is we want men to feel inspired to come to work every day and have apparel that makes them do their best at their job. In 2016, we realized that there was a gap in the market for everyday wear for the new work, how people work today. A lot of times people aren't wearing suits and things like that to work. They're wearing t-shirts and polos, and we wanted to appeal to that market. So, and we really want to inspire people like us. We are all, we're all the people in our business are young founders, 20, 25 to 30, and we didn't have any funding going into the business, and we've done it grassroots. And so that's our vision to show really our story, and hopefully it inspires people to do the same.
Amazing. A young entrepreneur like you starting a business and having a long-term vision, that's, I believe, really amazing. And a lot of people, I think, when they want to start a venture, the typical question that they have a lot of doubts, and there are always challenges, but I think you guys have overcome those challenges. Dean being a veteran and having served in the armed forces, I believe must have really helped him. And so, Dean, even when we were starting this business, definitely you must have had your complete. But what is that one or two challenges that you would like that you might have faced when you were this journey?
I'll tell you, the biggest challenge starting out was 4 years ago, Kuldeep.
Yep.
Our business plan was a blank sheet of paper. This is what it looked like.
Oh,
I mean, there was nothing.
okay.
And, one story I like to tell is I'm being invited more and more to speak at rotaries and chambers and universities is the military experience. And one school that stands out to me was Ranger School. And most people may have heard of it, but aren't familiar with it. And there's a lot of military doctrine and tactics associated with Ranger School. But more than anything, it's a leadership school.
True.
And Kuldeep, I didn't know it back then, but Ranger School was such great training for leading a startup, because what happened at Ranger School for 72 days straight, lived on one meal a day, 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night, and then just put in incredible stress. And we started with 340 on day one. On graduation day, there were 72 of us. And I'm like, that's the life I'm living now as a startup, no sleep, incredible stress. And I'm like, what great training for leading a startup. So that is probably the biggest one that I've had to overcome is, literally could work 24/7, but equally important to that, being a man that's been married 26 years, love my wife, we have 4 amazing kids, is how do we keep that priority as well and keep that balance on family?
Wow, that's amazing. I believe that kind of training, I think it has already prepared you for the future, and no matter what project you take, you will be successful in it. And I think it's commendable. I think it's the leadership drive that comes from that training that must be really helping you at this point of time. And going forward, I think you must have a vision in the long run that and it's married with purpose. And I believe that when I was reading about your bio, and I got to know that you have appeared in a lot of keynotes and Forbes, with the kind of clarity that you have, exercises and training that you have gone through during your veteran days. So I think there's so much to learn from you. I'll be touching upon a few of the aspects of your training in the next questions. Yeah. Steve, I wanted to ask this one question to you. You are running this successful e-commerce brand on Shopify, and what is your vision for the next 5 years? Where do you want to see your brand in the next 5 years?
Yeah, similar to Dean, we want to be a household billion-dollar brand one day. You look at a lot of the new e-commerce brands that have been able to do that, like Gymshark, and it's all about our community. We want to inspire and build the best community in the world with professionals like ourselves. young men trying to aspire their dreams. And it's really all about community for us for the future, doing events, bringing more, onboarding new ambassadors, and really growing the business to be more than a shirt brand. You know, we started off and we said, all right, to be a startup, you know, it's easy to do a lot of things, but we just wanted to do one thing great. So we said, all right, we're just going to make minimalist shirt for the workplace. And we did that for about 3 years, and we only sold one product, and we sold millions of shirts by just doing one thing great. And now, as we, you know, we feel like we are one of the leaders in the space. And now that we've accomplished that, we said, all right, we go into polos, and then now we've done sweatshirts, and our product assortment will never be, you know, crazy like a lot of different brands that are truly like do everything. We take our time and do one thing at a time. And one thing I'm very passionate about going forward is how to build sustainability into our business. In the spring of this year, we're coming out with a sustainable line, and we're pushing our business more towards that. And we want to be the leaders in that space. I know with fashion, sometimes the durability of a fabric comes at the expense of being sustainable. So just finding innovations in that space and really thinking, all right, let's do the right thing for the planet as well. So we're not 100% there. We're actually nowhere close to where I see to where I would love to be one day. But that really is something that we're really passionate about. And I think you know, we can accomplish that if we just continue to try to strive to do the right thing.
Wow, it's commendable. So you already have thought about sustainability for your business, and I believe this is the most significant thinking brand can adapt at this point of time, because consumers are becoming extremely aware and want to become socially responsible, and they go and buy from brands which has that kind of purpose and vision, kind of already in their DNA, or they are thinking in that direction. So this is amazing. I think that gives a lot of, that's like a USP that you can convey to your consumers in the long run. And I believe this is something that most brands are kind of do not pay attention to. But I think if you are thinking in that direction and it's gonna happen, this is great. I think this is really. I would like to ask this next question, taking into account the current Dean and Steven. Already know we are in a stage where it's extremely difficult time, or we can say challenging time, which no one was really ready for. And especially for it is extremely challenging to kind of find its way through to the next level. So how is your brand adapting and evolving, keeping in mind the end consumers? You already have a strong online presence, suddenly either because of the demand or shrinkage in the demand. How are you staying connected with your consumers, irrespective of the fact that whether they're buying or not buying from you? So I would like to ask this question, starting.
Yeah, I think when I look at, you know, what happened, I think the exact date was like March 13th or 14th when the world kind of stopped. And although there was a large majority of our customers stopped buying, and they said, you know, they were a little bit, with anytime there's uncertainty in the air, people, you know, keep their money in their wallet, as they should. But what was fortunate for e-commerce was, although there was less of our customers buying, the market grew 80%. So even though people buying shirts in general this year were significantly less, the amount of people that were buying online grew a substantial amount. So we've actually continued to grow this year a significant amount. And it's been a great year for us. I think one of the biggest challenges has been in the supply chain and customer service. Shipping times have been delayed a little bit, and we've worked really hard with our carriers and our 3PLs to combat that by offering, you know, extended. We moved from 20 days to a month and a half, where you could, you know, exchange your product if you can't get to the mail. You know, free exchanges. I think another thing we did was we've added, you know, little features on our website to make it easier to shop online. Like we use Body Block, which if you type in your height and weight and how you like the shirt, it'll help you overcome sizing issues, so you don't have to deal with the returns aspect of it. And just being transparent with our customers, I think, is so important at a time like this. If shipping is going to be delayed, letting them know ahead of time, hey, we're experiencing delays. We're getting rid of 2-day paid shipping, and here's what it is. Looking forward to Black Friday this year. They think it's going to be the Black Friday of all Black Fridays. There's going to be more traffic on the web. Our 3PL, it took about 5 years of growth in e-commerce down to 6 months. So there's going to be 5x the amount of customers, which was anticipated, which is good for businesses from a sales perspective, bad from a reverse logistics and logistics standpoint. So we're going to throw a Black Friday sale. Most likely, we're still debating it, but probably in October for our customers, and then we'll just for 1 day so they can get their items early, so anticipating it. And then also we're going to throw a normal one and just be transparent. So the year's been, and it's been, it's been a tough time to onboard and train people, because we've onboarded 10 new customers, but or 10 new employees since COVID started. So that's been hard from working from home, but we're I think we're taking it 1 day at a time.
Great. So you are innovating not just on the shopping front, like the experience front, but you are innovating on the logistics front to make sure that your consumers are getting what they're looking for. You're increasing the duration of returns and what's coming next. That's amazing. You, Dee, staying in touch with your system?
Kuldeep, it's a great question, because the times we're dealing with right now are completely unprecedented. And for clarity, for anyone that's not familiar with Authentically American, there's two sides of our business. So we started with a focus on the client side. So you as a business owner, you as a charity, as a school, instead of buying a made in China Nike polo with your company logo, now you can choose Authentically American. So there's that side. And just last year, we launched the consumer brand side. So you can go to our website and buy your new favorite t-shirt, your new favorite polo, hoodie, anything like that. And we were really wrestling with, in March, to Steven's point, are we even going to survive? We're a 3-year-old startup. We've got investors, but how are we going to survive? And one of the things to reinforce, we're very intentional about our story. And part of that story is around charities, and we very intentionally donate 10% of our profits to veteran and first responder charities. But the other piece that we really didn't highlight as much, when we partner with charities, we provide our goods and services at cost. And this is a way to reinforce that giving back value. This is a way we thought to go ahead and spread the word about Authentically American. And as we discussed our plans as a team in March, we said, first of all, we need some perspective, because we are still getting orders, to Steven's point, on online orders. That still was growing for us. But we thought, what if we're a charity? And you're relying on donations, and people are concerned about, are they even going to get paid? They're not making donations. So we proactively reached out to veteran charities. We proactively reached out to other charities that we had some loose discussions with before. I mean, we were welcomed with open arms, because now we gave them an opportunity, since we provide our goods and services at cost, for them to go ahead and mark it up and raise money. And that was really a lifesaver for us, because it brought in some revenue to keep the doors open. We were fortunate we didn't have to lay anyone off, but more importantly now, 6 months later, we're starting to really reap the benefits of that, because now there's a whole new round of exposure for our brand that likely would not have happened without this.
Wow, excellent. So I think you figured out a kind of turn this challenging times into while working with the stakeholders that are actually really important for your business. Extremely nice thought that you have there. And I believe more and more businesses, if they become or kind of act in that direction, it's basically you are empowering them, and at the same time making sure that your business is not just working with the end consumers, but with these important foundations of our society.
Kuldeep, Steven mentioned on the push on sustainability. And for us, we really think of it very simplistically in 2 areas. There's product, and then there's story. And nobody, and I emphasize, nobody is going to buy from Authentically American just because it's American made.
Mm.
What we have to make sure very intentionally that we've got amazing product. I want people to say, Dean, forget where it's made. This is just amazing product. And then they look at the tag and see that it's American made. And then they're enticed, and then they go to our website, learn about the story behind our brand, learn about the ethos, learn about things that we're doing with charities and nonprofits. And to me, that's when it starts to become their new favorite brand, because story, especially today with social media, it's so impactful. You know, there's a lot of great options. You know, in the US alone, there's 300 billion spent on apparel a year. So there's a lot of brands out there. And for Steve and I both, you know, to deliver on that $1 billion vision, I mean, we only have to please 1/3 of 1%. I mean, it's still massive, but that's why, to me, first and foremost, we lead with product, but then we want to reinforce the story behind our brand and what we're all about, and back to that idea around making a difference.
Excellent. Yeah, I believe, that's pretty true actually. And market size wise, the whole apparel and fashion industry is revenue wise is big. And I think even if you are able to get like a portion of it for your brand and have that set of consumers you mentioned earlier, like having a community of people who kind of have bought once and they become like lifelong customers for your brand. Amazing, great things can happen. Customer
Steve,
lifetime value.
we'll just split 1% each. How about that?
Hey, I'll take it. 1%. I didn't know that stat. That's that I'm going to tell my team that. I appreciate that. That's great.
300 billion. It's massive.
It's massive.
I'll take a 0.5%, and then we'll go golfing somewhere or something.
Absolutely. And I believe the whole trends are changing in terms of they're becoming the access to information that consumers have these days. Like the whole shopping is going to have a paradigm shift. 1.5 year as the new technologies kick in, augmented reality and virtual reality. Like currently, Steve, as you mentioned, you're putting in height and like the size and and anybody can just get it, what they're looking for. Complemented very soon with augmented reality, where your smartphone camera can just take your measure and then it can tell you whether the product that you're buying, whether it is going to fit you. And what this will initially be very difficult, but as technology evolves, this will be a main enabler for merchants, because then they do not have to ship something and get it like returned by the customer. So the logistics cost can be drastically reduced, because nowadays we notice that in e-commerce something, and even if it's like the fit is not there, they're gonna return it. So it's a major challenge, and I think that increases the cost of business ultimately when something gets returned. So I think there are a lot of things coming up in the near future. I would like to move the conversation to the next is marketing strategies that you adopt to your for engaging with your existing set of customer, as well as customers who haven't heard about you. Like what channels do you prefer? Do you prefer ads for growing your business?
Yeah. So we advertise, from a push strategy, we advertise on Instagram and Facebook pretty heavily. We've built our business on those two platforms. We've also recently got into Snapchat and Pinterest, and as well as Google. But Google, we mainly do just branded shirts, which means if someone types in Cutsclothing, they would go to. We're not necessarily prospecting on those channels. We do have a lot of influencers. We work with 100 to 300 influencers a month, and we send out a lot of product. I think that's one thing that we've found a huge success is a lot of times these influencers, we can't necessarily pay them because we're a small brand and we can't compete with the Nikes and Lululemons of the world, but we can give them our product. And then if they end up liking it and they want some more, they'll throw us a tag and post, and it'll be more of a natural relationship. And we've done that with guys on, the New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Lakers. We've worked with a lot of big time athletes just from an organic, and we haven't paid them. So, we had Patrick Mahomes wear our shirts on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and he DMs us right before, and he goes, "Hey, I'm wearing it we didn't pay that. It was just an authentic relationship. So as a startup, if you're watching and you're saying, hey, I don't have money to do things, and start super simple, and just to Dean's point, if you have a great product, let the product do the talking, because I think early in e-commerce from 2010 to 2014, you could almost sell anything and it worked. But now, there's more competition. You truly have to have a great product. So if you're, and no great marketing can sell a bad product. So I think it's really important that you focus on the product before you do anything else.
That's true. That's very true. I think important point that you touched, like how by understanding your consumer behavior and because they're getting so much of information from social media and from other platforms, and I think you discovered I think unconventional ways to get your product marketed. Like big fan of Jimmy Kimmel's show, so I think when a brand gets that kind of recognition on a show like that, yes, to have a very big brand recall value in the mind, because once they have heard it, they'll about the brand over and over again from different channels and different sources. So that definitely has a big ripple effect in the long run. So that's amazing. How about you, Dean? How are you managing to reach out to your end consumers?
Well, Steven, first of all, I'm going to make a note and reach out to you when we start 2021, because we've not done much on the influencer strategy. But I love the idea with the price tag that you pay being, the Patrick Mahomes Zero. I mean, that's an incredible success story. And, Kuldeep, I was really wrestling with having a pretty clear vision in my mind on where Authentically American, where I want it to be, having that strategy mapped out, but not having the resources to go ahead and do what I wanted to do. Because, after the Army, I spent time at Procter & Gamble, working on brands like Crest and Tide. Spent time at Mars working on brands like M&M's and Snickers. And I still remember in 2002 when I was at Procter & Gamble, if you're familiar with the brand Swiffer, that was a brand that was launched there. And the year one marketing budget alone was $100 million. $100 million. Steven, I don't know about you, but I had nowhere near that kind of money. So I was really wrestling with, okay, how do we make this come to life and really start to build? And, one of the strategies was to focus on the client side, because Steven, this, what's so difficult about building a brand from scratch is you don't have an audience. I mean, nobody knows who you are. And you've done a phenomenal job with the influencer strategy. One thought that I had, one idea, was to leverage the earned media. We've got this feel-good American story. How do we get as much free press and PR as we can? And I've been blown away. As a 3-year-old company, we have earned far more, earned media, free press, and PR than we ever deserve. And we had a feature story in Forbes magazine.
Wow.
We have been on Fox and Friends twice. I've been on Yahoo Finance. Just in the last month, I've been on Newsmax TV. I've been on Sirius XM. So, just Fox and Friends alone, for one example, there's 2 million people every morning. So, we've continued to ride those coattails, and how do we get that earned media out there so that, people can still reference it? And that really gave us initial credibility. Because Steven, I got words like, hey, Dean, the brand sounds great, but never heard of you. And then we'll show them this national media, their clip, and they're like, you guys are for real. You've been on national TV. So that was our, page, was how do we leverage as much free press and PR as we can, given our feel-good American story.
Wow. I think those unconventional ways of marketing really helps the brand. And because it's all about creating or finding your own space, or it's all about cutting through so much of advertisement out there. And so that at the end of the day, those two words, for example, Authentically American or Cutsclothing, did it strike a chord with the target audience? I think that's what maybe I can say define.
Did we lose Kuldeep?
We might have. Dean, that's amazing to hear all those like free press. That's one thing I think we've struggled with, you know, how do we make our story as compelling as one like your guys is, you know, we that's one thing. Maybe I'll be calling you after this and figuring out, we could trade some trade secrets, how to get that, because yeah, it's just, you know, it's a little bit harder for us, you know, to do that. But
you can share the influencer secrets, and I'll share the earned media secrets.
there we go. I like it. I like it.
Excellent, excellent. I believe there is so much of, I think, because you are in an industry which is like, I think any brand which might have started like 4 years, 5 years back, they have a long, I think once they have a long-term plan and they keep on executing some strategies, I think that they can easily achieve that goal. And I think it's all, so you have like 200 or almost 400 million customers out there. And I believe it's just a matter of time how that branding or reaches out and can be your target audience. So how do you, when you are doing your marketing campaigns, Dean or Steve, what is your typical buyer persona? What is the typical persona that probably you write your marketing copy for, or when you're creating your ad?
Sure. Yeah. We have a couple of different, it's actually something we're always continuing to develop. But we have three main ones. We call them like the coffee shop baller is just the name. And it's someone from like 25 to 35 that makes between, you know, 70 and 100K. And they're a young professional working in some of the metropolises like Seattle, San Francisco, New York, Dallas, Houston. And they're into fashion, but they're not like the most fashionista guy, and they just want a clean minimalist shirt and not really think about fashion too much. And that's one of ours. And we look at that person as someone who's moving around a lot, maybe works from home, comes in the office sometimes, can work out of a coffee shop, and is constantly moving. Another one we have is the cool dad who has a household. Maybe he has his first nice car. He maybe has a wife and 2 young kids at home. And what's great about building these personas is when we advertise online, we rate it internally from like a scale of 1 to 5 of the probability of success. And it's important that we rate beforehand, because and we give them a scale. And so because Facebook's all about creative, and how well the creative ad does is going to drive your click-through rates up and your conversion rates. So if we can rate it before and get more accurate with the profitability per creative, we can actually save a ton of money. And so we've created this internal rating system that's really helped us not waste money on bad creative. And those personas really help us, you know, have a very specific guy in mind. So when we feed it into Facebook, it can have the best results. So personas and understanding your customer is something every day we start with. All right, who's our community? What do we do? And who we're trying to apply to, because, you know, me and Dean, we can have, you know, there's, like you mentioned, there's 380 million customers in the world. There's so many people out there. And I've found you really want to be intentional with your audience and not try to do too much, because if you try to appease everyone, you're not going to appease anyone. So just having those personas in mind is so important.
Wow. Yeah, that's very true. I believe like you narrow down on your, and you are catering to them. The ad campaigns that you're doing it very thoughtfully. And I believe that's where the major time goes in thinking, creative thinking, where what will appeal to my target audience and how they can learn about my, I think it's just like from awareness stage to consideration stage, and that happens. And once that purchases happen, over a period of the customer's lifetime, how many more times does he come and buy from your store? So how do you kind of take it, Dean? Like, how do you define your buyer persona for your brand?
So it's interesting because we're 3 years old, but our consumer brand is only coming up on 1 year. And similar to what Steven did, we had Harry. We
Uh-huh.
had Emma and we had Matt, and there were different personas and demographics behind each one of them. And
Mhm.
when we started, it was who we thought
Yeah.
was going to be our targeted consumer, and that's evolved a little bit, and similar process to Steven. But one thing that we thought we were being focused with just Harry, Emma, and Matt, we've really decided right now we just need to
Mhm.
focus on Harry. This is that 35 to 45-year-old male that is going to be relatively traditional, relatively conservative, likely has been a veteran or a first responder, that the values and the story behind our brand really resonate. But I'll share one more perspective that I'm excited to see in a month from now what's going to be happening, because a local private high school reached
Mhm.
out to me and said, Dean, we've seen you on national media and we have a high school entrepreneurial class.
Wow.
First of all, I was blown away that in high school they
Yeah.
have an entrepreneur class. So I was just there. There were about 50 students that I
Mhm.
shared our story and what we're doing. And one of the things that came up is how powerful video is. I mean, think of
Mhm.
TikTok.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not as old as we are, and they are much, much bigger, and just the power of video. So
Yeah.
there are 8 different groups within these 2 classes,
Mhm.
and each one of them is going to come up with a video. So we're going to have one video from each student that's going to
Mhm.
be focused on the product and how we've
Uh-huh.
got just amazing product. And then there's going to be another set of 8 videos. They're going to be
Mhm.
focused just on the story. And
Wow.
I'm excited because here's a whole new generation that, very quickly and easy, they don't need a professional studio. I'm excited to
Right.
see the videos that come out with, because it's
Yeah.
so impactful. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so easy to grab people's attention and pull them in. So, Kuldeep, I wish we
Mhm.
were doing it 30 days from now, because I could show you a quick 10 to 15-second video that is really capturing everyone's attention.
Wow. Excellent. Yeah. So you're nurturing tomorrow's leaders, and I believe leaders begets leaders, and I think with the way things are happening, uh, about nurturing, and I truly believe that I think every big brand, or when they might have started, they these values, they have these vision to kind of make sure that the community that they are kind of helping them. And I think, Dean, you're doing amazing job by kind of helping so many stakeholders with skills, and which is really commendable. And typically in case of, I still remember when internet probably started taking shine, or like during that time, e-commerce was a very naive term. Like it was, no one could really think of that online business can become this big. And it, like when Amazon started, they just started as a bookstore, and now what, when we look at Amazon, it's like a behemoth. It's like the giant, which is taking into account every possible interaction with the consumer to come up with personalization of the shopping experience. uh, they have millions of product, but they are able to show what the customer is looking for. They are able to make sure that Amazon becomes a lifestyle for them. It's like if something, I go to Amazon, and so
Mhm.
they are able to build trust and loyalty portal, and ultimately constantly keep on listening to consumer feedback. So I wanted to kind of get to this point, like you already have built your audience, you already have got your community. uh, have there been any experiences where the customer has shared some insight or some kind of review that they have given that has helped you in kind of figuring out or do something different? Had something like that happen of your business?
Yeah. Stephen, I'll go first this time since
Oh,
you've gone the last 2 times. So, Kuldeep, I
oh,
mentioned how we started with a client focus.
Yeah.
And the idea for us, instead of building an audience from scratch, the
Mhm.
idea was to go where audiences already exist. So, whether it's businesses or charities and schools, that market for polos, t-shirts, hats, that market is 8
Mhm.
billion, 8
Wow.
billion alone. And my
Mhm.
thought was, I'm going to give them a choice. I'm going to give them
Mhm.
a high quality American made choice that's competitively priced. And as part
Mhm.
of the longer term plan, call it 5 years out, I thought, okay, then we're really going to go ahead and create some unique differentiation on our consumer brand. But
Right.
Kuldeep, to your point, it was the customer feedback that
Yeah.
drove us to the point where we are right now, because I had business owners that would
Mhm.
reach out to me and say, Dean, how do I get just
Mhm.
the flag?
Uh-huh.
In the flag, I'm referencing, our vintage US flag logo. And I said, what are you talking about? And they said, Dean, I love it. When your logo's next to mine, it's a subtle reinforcement of our values, but love your brand, love your product, love your story. How do I want to buy? I want to buy just your stuff. And it made me start thinking, after hearing that multiple times, that we need to accelerate. Forget 5 years out. I mean, we need to up that plan 2 years and really start to go ahead and come up with some innovation and come up with a plan that will really drive our consumer brand. And it's still in its infancy now, but that was something that, based on feedback we received, that, accelerated our timeline by multiple years.
Wow, amazing. Absolutely. I think listening to your consumers gives you a lot of creative ideas, and executing them can really be a game changer. How about you, Steve? Any particular experience from a consumer with, like, whose feedback really helped you in kind of making changes, improving some things in your product and service?
Yeah, our shirts we call them, it's a Pika Blend, and we've gone through Pika 1, 2, 3, and now we call it Pika Pro, similar to how like Apple will do, like, the Apple iPhone, X, however many names they have. But because we've only had one product, it's been important. It's been really everything that we've listened to our customers. Early on, we washed it with enzyme, and enzyme with polyester will actually beat it up and cause friction and actually separate, which causes the pilling. And so we listened to our customers, and I remember we made our first, I think it was like 10,000 units with it, and it just didn't end up good. And it turned the Henley sideways, and it was just a big mess. We quickly had to change and not use that type of a wash. And over the course of the 4 years that we've been around, we've made upgrades to the fabric, mainly because of the customers. And it's actually one of my favorite things to do. I have a folder in my inbox, and people get my email all the time, and I have an inbox that's disgruntled and customers, that find my email. If they find my email, they're really upset about something. And this one guy recently emailed me, and hey, you should have, this is a bad product, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what, I hear you. We just fixed this issue you mentioned. I sent him a new one. And then I said, you know what, I sent him 20 shirts, because he was really upset. And so I handwritten him a card and said, hopefully this, because he was like, you're not over delivering on the purchase. So I said, I hope this is over delivering. And I sent him 20 shirts. And then he, like 6 months later, emails me back and says, hey man, I was being, not a nice guy. And I apologize for coming at you so hard. Here's a wedding photo. I actually proposed in my cut shirt. And actually, do you want to come to the wedding? And so now I said, no, I can't come to the wedding because of COVID. But I ended up sending him, all of his groomsmen, some shirts. So customers, whenever I get a negative complaint, I look at how can I over deliver for this customer, and really listen to them. If we're doing anything bad, with our returns, we didn't have a good returns process. I think in the beginning of our business, we didn't have a good reverse logistics, which is like a huge part of our business now. And so it was just too much of a pain for customers. So now we've upgraded that. We use Happy Returns. There's return bars all over the US that can actually walk in and use it. And so there's lots of different little things that customers have been big, and they're really the lifeblood of our business, and everything they say always comes first.
Wow. So I think you got that customer for a lifetime. I hope all of your customers become like that, and then it becomes like an interesting game where your lifetime value for becomes like shoot up, just buying once or twice, every now and then. And even if they have to recommend someone, they just tell your brand's name, and that's how you get those additional customers in a kind of additional way. Amazing.
Steven, that's such a great story, because we talk about wanting to build lifetime customers, and usually it's focused on, well, how do we delight them up front? But I'm a firm believer that we're going to make mistakes. I mean, ultimately, these are humans leading businesses, so we're going to make mistakes. But when you do, I mean, your story is a great example. Is how do you go above and beyond? not just make it right, but go above and beyond so that they become, a champion for your brand. That's just a great story. Wedding photos now.
Yeah, but he sent it to me a couple of days ago. I was pretty excited. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, these are some of the insights. I think this is like a learning. I believe listening to your consumers can tell you so much about your brand, because they are looking at your product and your brand very differently. Because internally, when we are looking at our own, we may kind of overlook on some of the aspects that how the consumer is thinking about, or what they are perceiving about your brand. And I think these are some of the stories that really kind of help you in. This is amazing. I believe this can really, really help you in the long run. Dean and Steve, I would like to ask this one more question, which is, how is your brand kind of managing the supply chain disruption and the issues that you might have faced in the logistics part because of the current challenging situation? How did you guys dealt with this, like supply chain and logistics part?
Dean, you can start.
Certainly. So this was the uh-oh moment in March, where it really had us freaked out because we weren't sure, how it was going to play out. And we have contract manufacturing now established in 12 different states. So we have amazing t-shirts, for example, we produce in Texas. We have socks that we produce in North Carolina. So all across the US, and that has really been one of the things that has saved us, is we weren't leaning on just one contract manufacturer for everything. And, through this time frame, we had 10 of 12 that were up the entire time, and some of them have limited capacity. And there were only 2 of them that were really impacted, and they are starting to come back online now. And there were some, they call it customer services challenges we have. But to the example earlier, when there's challenges, our mantra is we have to over communicate. I've found that as long as people are in touch with you, as long as they know that you recognize there's an issue and you're communicating with them, then there's not an issue. So this was both on the client and the consumer side brand. But, fortunately now, as we're starting to come out of COVID, we're in a much better position. And what's really helped keep us during this time was that mantra of over communicating.
That's amazing. I think that's true. I believe consumers are constantly kind of looking at your brand and kind of making those assumptions. And I think during these times, especially, logistics was a biggest challenge that brands have faced because of the whole delivery process getting in. There are times, because typically in normal times, consumer know they placed an order, they'll get it in these many days. But during these times, it's extremely important to kind of keep this thing conveyed and kind of being open about it, that there will be a delay. And I think consumers kind of to evolve and adapt to these situations. So this is amazing. I think you kind of addressed that thing very, really, really well. How about you, Steve? How did you manage your, how did you make sure products and everything, where you're getting it sourced, how did you manage it?
I think Dean hit it on the nose. Really diversification in our where we have them made. We're in 4 or 5 different places around the world. China being one of them. Philippines, Vietnam. We do some in LA. So it was in the beginning. It was difficult, and luckily we always have this saying internally. We always pay last month's rent. So in terms of products, we always have like a emergency stash of units that can cover us for 1 month, and which came in huge. We deal with Chinese New Year, which affects really all of the Asian places that we develop in, and that was a struggle for us because they didn't come back to work after, and so they were going on break for Chinese New Year, but then with COVID happened, it extended so really, if we would have been in just China, we would have been out 3 months essentially of garment making, which would have destroyed our year. So luckily we had planned ahead and prepared for like a rainy day, one with having product in the store, and 2, just having diversification with it where we get them made. And so yeah, just preparing. And I think Dean said it best: over communicating with our suppliers and with our customers. And over communication is so important, because a lot of times you can think you're doing a decent job of communicating, but
Mm.
you know, you're, as a founder, you're thinking about it 24/7, and you know every little angle. But your customers or your suppliers, they have 20 different clients. So even if you do a good job communicating, they can just forget. And you know, in my early days, that used to frustrate me so much. I remember we were producing in downtown LA, and these guys just could not get the job done for me. I was a one-man show, and it was just took months and months and months to get a simple T-shirt made. And you know, that really, I learned the hard way that over communication is so important, by not doing it and assuming that they understood what I meant. Yeah, I think, you know, what Dean said is 100% right. Over communication is a huge
Diversification.
diversification.
Diversification of having your inventory, because that's a very critical aspect, because I think most businesses, like, there's an inventory model and then there is like just in time model. And I believe in fashion, it's trends are constantly changing, so you have to be on the cusp of what's currently trending. Diversification in the supply chain really is a great pointer that you touched. I believe this is really important. uh, while we are moving to the next question, while we are going to end the panel discussion, I would like to ask this question, which is, you have a vision, you have a purpose, and you have already established your business by overcoming all the challenges. What is that one piece of advice, Dean, that you would like to give to fellow entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs who wanted to enter into the fashion and apparel business? Maybe if you can relate something to your training, how to do.
I'd say first and foremost, Kuldeep, and it doesn't matter whether it's fashion, apparel, that business we're in. I think in general, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to be in business for yourself, you have to find what you love. I mean, you have to find what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And I have never been one to shy away from hard work, but I will tell you now, you know, by lunch on Wednesday, I'll already have 40 hours in, and it doesn't feel like work though. I mean, it's pursuing my passion. And I think that's such a key ingredient. You know, no matter what walk of life you're in, just find something you love, because then likely not only are you going to be good at it, I mean, you're going to be great because you're doing something you love. But here's the watch out: when you're doing something you love, I mean, I literally could work 24/7, having started with a blank sheet of paper 3 years ago, and still not get everything done. But having a wife I love dearly, having 4 amazing kids, there are just times when, okay, it's 6 o'clock. No matter where I'm at, I'm done. I've got to get home. I've got to take the kids to practice. I've got to be there for a family dinner. And I think it's both of those. It's, you know, find what you love, find what you're passionate about, but also saying, okay, building this iconic American brand, building this brand, I mean, that's a long-term journey. So how do you also keep those priorities? So for me, it's my family, it's my Christian faith, and, you know, I put fitness and health in there as well.
Wow, that's a great advice you got there for us. I believe, yeah, that's true. I think finding a balance or striking a right what you do, and with all the stakeholders, because I think our lives is comprising of our family, what the work we do, and I think finding the right balance is really critical element for that. Steve, you are like in your 20s and 30s, and I think what you are started really early. And what is your one piece of advice for entrepreneurs like you, or someone who wants to start looking at your story?
Well, first off, I just got to give kudos to Dean. I think, you know, as a young man, I think it doesn't get talked about enough, having a great family balance and being there for your kids and wife, and being married as long as you have. I think that's going to, you know, that's a goal of mine. And that's definitely something in business that doesn't get talked about enough. So I just want to say how much I look up to founders that be founders, and have a great family life balance. I think a lot of times the founders that don't have a good family life balance get praised for that work, and I think it's backwards. If your family life isn't you know, bearing fruit, then it doesn't matter how successful you were with your business. So, yeah, Dean, I definitely look up to that. But for me, I think starting small and simple is so important, and doing one thing at a time. As a founder, early on in my days when I was super young, right out of college, I would see someone do this and I'd be like, oh, I could do that. And then, I could do this, and you end up getting nothing done. So just taking one step at a time, and, making sure it's complete before you move to the next. And, one of the things that we did this year, as we've had more people on our team, is having guiding principles and things that the business lives by. And one of the big ones we use is, we call it rocks, and we do everything based on rocks. And so if you fill up this cup, there's two things in life: there's rocks and there's sand. So rocks are the things that are the most important things, and maybe I only let people in the business have 4 rocks that are going to take 80% of your time. And the reason, it's an analogy, where if you were to fill up the rocks or the sand in this cup first, then the rocks, you wouldn't be able to fit it in your day, and it wouldn't be flush. But if you fill the rocks up first, then go to the sand, then you'll be able to fill up the cup. So make sure you always focus on the most important things, and then do like the things that aren't as important. So it sounds cliche, like simple, but it's really, like, I think the biggest thing where I see entrepreneurs failing is they try to do too much too fast.
Wow, excellent, man. I mean, I'm kind of resonate with that thought, and what you is like, you can fill a glass with stones and sand, but you have to decide fill it with first, and then the that's extremely valuable, I believe. And I must say, this has been in the last for 58 minutes now, and the points that you guys have touched upon are really, really critical and important, because I think what Dean has mentioned about finding the right balance and having the passion of what you do kind of defines the end goal. It automatically takes you towards your end goal, and that's what I think Dean is kind of doing it really, really well, and is able to kind of take that message forward to the community. And by doing a great community service, I think, by bringing all the stakeholders together and having that passion, Dean, is really commendable. Thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your thoughts and wisdom. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's an honor to be a guest today.
Thank you. Steve, I must say, the pointers that you have shared as a budding entrepreneur and how you have established your business, and you really touched upon some of the key points, like listening to your consumers, simple, and making sure that being transparent with your end consumers, and how it can help you in the long run, and how your consumers then become your ambassadors and drive for your business. Excellent. I really, really want to again say thank you to both Dean and Steve for taking out time today, and look forward to learning a lot from you. And I believe there are several topics that we would love to have you in our future panel discussions as well. Thank you so much for joining this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen, we got a deal. We're just going to split 1% for now, and we'll be good.
Hey, that's all I need. That 0.5%, I'll be set.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much, and look forward to speaking with you again. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Steve. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.